Okay, we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Sellerscale Show, where we bridge the knowledge gap between sellers and experts in the Amazon space. Today, I have a very interesting guest. His name is John Kant. He's the co-founder of Rising Sun Commerce, and along with partners, he helps sellers sell on Amazon Japan. In this interview, I want to talk about how John got into that, what it's like to sell in this mysterious marketplace, what key misconceptions sellers have about selling in Japan, and possibly what advantages sellers have if they decide to pursue the Amazon Japan opportunity. John, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
Yeah, thanks for accepting the invite. When you talk to an average Amazon seller, how do you describe what your business does? Is it as simple as we help sellers sell on Amazon Japan marketplace, or is there something more to it?
Yeah, basically, I mean, what we describe it as, our one-liner is we help brands sell successfully on Amazon Japan. So sort of successfully is the key point
Okay.
because it's easy for anybody to put up a list in there, but if it's doesn't have the right content, then you're not going to get any sales. So yeah.
Right, and how do you determine whether what you're doing? I mean, how do you determine whether a seller is successful in Amazon Japan? Is there any metric that you follow?
I mean, what we mean by this is, we go the extra mile. We understand the intricacies of selling on Amazon Japan. We understand, content and copywriting from a Japanese audience perspective, and that's kind of the difference of what you get. Our clients get with working with somebody like us, than just kind of machine translating their products listings or working with a general translator that doesn't really understand e-commerce and the keywords and search visibility behind it. So that's
Right, and I definitely want to go more into the misconceptions and the differences between selling on Amazon Japan as compared to other marketplaces. But before that, I just want to hear your story. I mean, I read that you were running a food subscription delivery service in the UK before you got
yeah.
into the Amazon Japan, right? How do you transition from that into helping sellers operate in Japan?
Yes, you've done your research very well. Exactly. So when I did run a sort of, it was like a Deliveroo, but for grocery businesses
Okay.
kind of thing. So it was an e-commerce platform where you could buy uh, food products from all of our local independent food businesses. And then I used to run the website side of it and the delivery side of it myself. But it didn't really work out, but that's kind of what gave me my sort of start into running a business myself and having that sort of entrepreneurial way of thinking of sort of solving a problem and creating something that didn't exist in the world. So I mean, I guess one of the lessons I learned from running the food delivery business was um, it was in partnerships with the suppliers. So it was about creating a win-win situation. So I got paid on a commission basis, and we sort of shared the profits kind of thing of me bringing extra customers to their premises through the website, and then also me delivering the products to them. So it was like a profit share businesses, and that lesson fundamentally stands in what we do now, really, with running the Amazon Japan agency. We need to make our clients successful in order to get paid ourselves and have that continued success. I guess probably more relevant to the Amazon Japan side of the story is I lived in Japan for 5 years as an English teacher. So I kind of really
Was
got
that
to.
after the delivery service or?
No, so that was before. That was
Okay.
just before the food delivery business. So yeah, I lived there for about 5 years or so in Shizuoka and Nagano, um, living in the countryside. Learning Japanese, working in government high schools. So kind of really
Do you speak fluently
ingrained.
Japan? I mean,
Uh,
do you speak Japanese?
I speak a fair bit of Japanese. Yeah, I wouldn't say fluent, but it's okay. I can get by. Yeah, but I don't do the sort of translation and copywriting service in the business. We've got native Japanese speakers to do that. So yeah, yeah,
Interesting.
don't panic. Yeah.
Interesting. What's the number one culture difference that you saw in Japan when you lived there? I mean, from what you were used to in UK and especially on the business side.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of in some ways on the surface it obviously looks very different. The language and stuff is very different, but uh, I think to British people, they're kind of quite similar fundamentally. Like they like a joke, they like drinking, they're an island nation, so they've got a bit of that sort of
Right.
mentality. So culturally, there are actually quite a lot of similarities between British people and Japanese people. I think they're very polite, which apparently British people are as well. Or so yeah,
Right. Right.
yeah, yeah.
Interesting. And from what I see on YouTube, and to be honest, like everywhere, Amazon is promoting Amazon Japan quite aggressively. I was curious to know why do you think that is, and what makes this marketplace so appealing as a potential expansion avenue for Amazon sellers right now? I mean, most importantly, why now and like not 5 years ago or 5 years in the future? Why do you think Amazon is promoting Amazon Japan so aggressively right now?
Yeah, I mean, maybe 5 years ago was an even better time to get there. I don't know what your question. It reminds me of that Chinese proverb about the best time to plant a tree uh, was 5 years ago. The second best time is now, kind of
No,
thing.
right.
So, you know,
Yeah, totally.
um, so it's a yeah, it's a good marketplace now because it's very well developed. It was one of the earliest Amazon marketplaces. I think it came online in '99, so it's very well established. um, Amazon as a Japan as a country, it's got 127 million people, so it's the ninth biggest country by population in the world, the third largest economy, um, and it's Amazon's third or fourth biggest marketplace, depending on the data. It's pretty much similar size to the UK. So you've got
Right.
Amazon.com as being by far the biggest, then Germany in second place, and then the UK and Japan being kind of tied for sort of third and fourth, just about. Um, I think we see there's fewer sellers like for like, so there's about 20% fewer sellers on Amazon Japan than there is compared to the UK. But if you think of that of overall sales, then it means the corollary of it is that there's less competition if there's fewer sellers. So I think that's sort of why it's a good opportunity. Um, yeah.
Right, and I think especially for sellers who are just starting out, they see all this hype around Amazon of the opportunity, and they think that they're too late for the highly competitive Amazon US and Canada marketplaces. It seems that for them, the Japanese opportunity might be the real deal, right? It might be really beneficial.
Yeah, exactly. It feels like it's sort of the UK US, a couple of years ago, in terms of, there's not that number of sellers, and a lot of there seems to be a lot more knowledge and courses and learning in the US and the UK as well compared to Japan about how to start and grow an Amazon business. So there's a lot more people with a lot more knowledge, I think, in the UK and Europe and the US than there is in Japan, which kind of puts international sellers a, a sort of advantage. If you know exactly what you're doing on Amazon's platform, then you can um, apply those lessons to the Japanese marketplace as well. I think another factor is um, that about 5 years ago, Amazon had about 15% market share of e-commerce in Japan, and
Right.
nowadays that's gone up to about 22%.
Hmm.
Uh, so again, Amazon is kind of outgrowing the competition, if you like, if you sort of look at it from that point of view. E-commerce as a whole is growing, but Amazon's growth is even accelerating compared to its competition. And I think part of the reason for that is because they make it very easy and straightforward for international sellers to use their platform.
Okay, so they basically want international sellers to come and sell products on the Japanese marketplace.
Exactly
Yeah.
as you were saying, yeah, yeah.
Interesting. And I mean, in Russia, for example, where I'm from, we have a lot of Amazons of Russia, right? Like eBays of Russia.
Uh-huh.
Does Japan have any local marketplace that like compare it to the Amazon like in the US?
Yeah, so the three largest e-commerce platforms in Japan are Amazon, Rakuten,
Rakuten.
and Yahoo Shopping.
Okay.
Um, Rakuten has historically been the most dominant platform. I think it was started in about 96, 97, and it did have massive market share of Japan for a while, but that's been dropping over recent years. And again, this is due to it's more difficult for international sellers to use Rakuten. Um, you need, uh, generally speaking, you need a Japanese registered business to be able to sell on there, which is a huge difference between that and Amazon. Um, it's historically been more of a sort of fashion marketplace as well, whereas Amazon's more sort of, I don't know,
Books
electronics and
and
books and
electronics.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So the sort of history of the two platforms are kind of different, but they're obviously both expanding to be broader and broader as well. And then Yahoo shopping portal is still pretty. I mean, Yahoo as a platform in Japan is still pretty big. It's, I think, that the second or third most visited website in Japan.
Hmm.
And they've got a shopping channel as well, which accounts for about 9% of e-commerce in Japan. So they're the sort of big three
Interesting,
players.
interesting. And speaking of that, because you mentioned the brand registry and that you have to have your business registered in Japan if you want to sell in Rakuten, what should Amazon sellers have before entering the Japanese marketplace? Should they have a dedicated bank account? Should they have a registered brand there? Maybe they should pass through some additional compliance for certain product categories or have a Japanese-speaking customer representative if they have a big business.
Yeah, so I'll take those sort of points one at a time.
Okay.
So fundamentally, you need. I always recommend having a knowledge of Amazon, generally speaking, before going on to Amazon Japan. You know, some people approach us and they think, oh, my product is a really good fit for Japan. Let's start selling on Amazon Japan, even if they've not sold on Amazon historically. I always think it's very important to understand how Amazon works as a platform in
So,
your
so
in your own
sellers will
country
benefit
first.
from selling in the UK or in the US marketplace before they go into Japan. So it
I
should be
think
the
I
first one.
think so. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
I think so. So I always recommend that they get to know and understand Amazon before, launching into Japan. Um, and again, sort of tying in with that, I think having a successful product that customers want and that works well on Amazon's platform is sort of a fundamental. I'd say, don't launch something new on Amazon Japan if you don't fully understand it in your own marketplace first. More sort of from a practical point of view. Um, uh, Compliance information depends on the product category. So um, things like food and drink products, cosmetic products, um, toys require compliance work to be done, which is kind of government level. It's not Amazon. It's not an Amazon thing. It's a government level thing. So those and the tests, whilst if you're selling a food product and it
Right.
it has to go through the FDA regulations in the US.
Right.
Fundamentally, it will pass in Japan as well, but the two systems don't talk to each other, so it would require independent testing
Oh, okay.
for
Okay.
Japan as well, kind of thing. Um, so that's one thing that's a bit of a barrier. In terms of brand registry, you don't need a Japanese trademark to enroll in the brand registry program as things stand at the moment. They recognize international trademarks. If you've got a European one, a US one, a British one, then you're fine on the brand registry
Okay.
program in Japan. And offering support in Japanese that is a requirement. And that's, if you don't have it in house, then that's what companies like mine can offer. That's one of the services that we do. So it's relatively easy to solve that.
And what are some of the ways that Amazon businesses can build the customer support, the Japanese-speaking customer support, for example, without outsourcing it to a company like yours? Can they hire somebody, for example, on Fiverr or some local Japanese freelance marketplace? Does it work that way? Or do they have to go to a full-service company like yours to do that?
No, I mean, people are free to manage their account any which way they choose. I think it's good to have someone on standby to be able to field customer questions and things
Right.
in Japanese. So, I wouldn't recommend using Google Translate to reply to customer messages. You can generally understand what the inbound question is using Google Translate and get a feel for the idea of the question. But in terms of replying to customers, it's really not recommended at all, because it just comes out sort of gobbledygook. Really, it doesn't really make any sense. Japanese and English are so far different. The word orders are quite different, and the intricacies of yeah tense, the way tenses and verb endings, they can be misinterpreted. So it's yeah, it's not recommended to
Right,
use Google
definitely.
Translate.
Definitely. And you do have an excellent 16-step plan, which we'll totally share with our listeners and readers in the show notes under this episode. Could you talk briefly about what they can find there?
Yeah, sure. So I think, but I mean, the guide kind of goes into, what uh, basically everything we spoke about here, really.
Okay.
What the requirements are for selling a product, how to be successful. Um, the I think one factor that plays into it is people that think Japan is quite an intimidating place to sell
Right.
because of the language and how it looks, and
And
Japanese
how far away it
websites.
is?
Yeah, no, exactly. Certainly in the UK, a lot of businesses think, oh, we'll sell in Europe because that's on our
Right,
doorstep.
right, right, right.
Um, but if you've got products that are manufactured in China, Japan is actually closer because it's 48 hours on a ship away. You can get your products into a Japanese FBA center within a week usually of being, so going from your factory to being in a Japanese FBA center, it takes 7 days, door to door, which is far quicker than sending stock to the US or
So
Europe,
the
which
lead
is
time, yeah, the lead time is smaller. That's one of the benefits from selling in Amazon Japan if you manufacture your products in China, right?
exactly, yeah.
And are there any other benefits that, in terms of unit economics, that sellers can tap into when selling in Japan? Maybe lower fulfillment fees or anything else along those lines?
Yeah, so the fulfillment fees and the pick and pack fees pretty much work the same way as they do in Europe and the US. They're almost like for like, really. So there's no particular advantage there. It's more about the cash flow. Um, the the yen is relatively strong. It's a good
Hmm.
currency, and people are less price conscious in Japan, I'd say. So we see a lot of our clients do charge more for their products in Japan than
Mm.
they do in Europe and stuff, especially if it's a product that you can't get in Japan. If it's something a bit different that's hard to get hold of, then you can have good margins on products there.
What are some of the
Downs
products like that? Sorry.
um So I mean, we've got one client that sells like some homeware products kind of thing, and I think they sell for about 15-20% more in Japan than they do in the UK, and they're doing more sales in Japan than they are doing in the UK as well. So it's working out well for them, but it's hard to each product is unique. So without sort of looking at the market, it's hard to give a sort of uh, a broad answer really without.
Yeah, but I'm just curious to know what particular product categories tend to be more successful in Japan. You mentioned that some product categories allow you to have higher margin because they're not local to the Japan market unless somebody sells them from abroad. Uh, Besides the homeware products, can you name like two, three categories that fit into that criteria?
Yeah, so good categories: homeware, electrical, and sort of sports, outdoors, DIY products. They're good categories because the compliance requirements is relatively straightforward. So they're quite easy categories to get into. Um,
Right.
Cosmetics and um, yeah, cosmetics
Interesting.
category is it's a very big market, but there are compliance requirements around selling in that category. So whilst the opportunity's good, the kind of barrier to entry makes it a bit more difficult as well. So um, from one's not where it's probably further behind the curve, sort of clothing category is yeah, it's because Rakuten has been so dominant for such a long time, I think Amazon's much slower to catch up on the clothing category when compared to Europe and the US. And the grocery one, I think, is probably a fast-growing category, um, similar to the US and Europe, where Amazon have shown interest in teaming up with supermarkets and stuff. They're doing that in Japan, and they've partnered with a Japanese supermarket called Life to, you
Hmm.
know, deliver grocery products as well. And it's not there yet, it's not massive yet, but it's something that Amazon are investing in. So it's worth keeping an eye on.
Yeah, it seems that one of the strategies that Amazon sellers can apply is see what's underperforming on the Rakuten marketplace and try selling that via Amazon Japan, right?
Yeah. No, that'd be an interesting thing to do. Yeah.
And speaking of that, what are some of the nuances in terms of marketing that sellers who want to sell on Amazon Japan should know about? For example, do you see any sellers or your clients leveraging any Japanese local social networks to drive external traffic to their listings? Maybe some non-obvious influencer marketing campaigns or anything else of that sort?
So most of what we do is all Amazon advertising. That's what we do internally. I think we've only got one client that's doing off Amazon marketing. They run Facebook ads to their products, and it seems to be going okay. They're using a different Japanese agency to help manage that. In terms of influencer marketing and stuff, it, it's a thing the same way as it is in Europe and the US. Instagram is one of the dominant platforms. Facebook is just as big in Japan. Twitter is also very popular in Japan. So there's no real differences in terms of platforms. It's not like China where they're using a whole
Right, right.
uh, a whole different platform architecture. Japan is very similar to what we use over here. Um, the one sort of difference is they've got a platform called Line, which is a bit like WhatsApp for sort of group messaging, and you can run ads on that. It's not something that we've looked into, but that's probably the one major difference. But yeah, we and our clients just tend to utilize Amazon's on advertising platform really at the moment.
And
Yeah.
does the process look the same when you're using Amazon Japanese, Amazon Ad Console, or is there any nuances that we should know about?
Yeah, no, it's pretty much the same as it is here. The API hasn't been opened. Oh, it only opened up in May last year. So a lot of the PPC software doesn't work for Japan. That's the sort of one difference I think to point out. And then from a sort of keyword point of view and a language point of view, Japan has kind of 3 different alphabets. So
Right.
it can be trickier to manage your keywords, or there's potentially 3 different ways of writing the same word. So it's like using a
That's why you need a
thesaurus.
native speaker here, right, to help you out.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, you
Yeah.
can go off the data as well, but you just need to be aware that that translating a word on a one-to-one relationship, you might end up missing lots of equivalent words. So it'd be like, you know, in English using a thesaurus kind of thing and putting all the
Right.
different variations. You have to do that, and it's got like another level to that because of the 3 different alphabets kind of thing.
Right. Interesting. And beyond that, what are some of the most common misconceptions that you see that you have to fight with when clients and sellers have come to you to work about selling in Japan?
Yeah, so we cover this in the guide actually. I think one of the first thing that springs to mind is people think that it's really intimidating. And again, it comes back from the language point of view because it's not using the Roman alphabet. The characters look a bit crazy. So they think it's going to be
Right.
really difficult. But, I don't speak Italian, I don't speak Spanish. So if you don't speak another country's language, it doesn't really matter how strange it looks, you don't speak it. So I think
Right. Right.
it's, you know, by using people who know what they're doing, an agency like us or someone else, then you don't almost need to worry about that. It's just the language is the language, right? So yeah.
Right.
Um, Yeah, people worry about shipping as well because they see it as being far away. But as I sort of mentioned before, it's actually next to China. So from a manufacturing point of view, it's relatively straightforward to get your products there. Um, you need what's called an importer of record, which is somebody in Japan to be responsible for accepting your goods into the country when you're sending them to an FBA center. But there's various third-party companies that offer that service kind of thing. Um, what else? Customer support, I guess, is another concern that people have. And again, by using, local Japanese staff or freelancers or whoever you want, having somebody on standby to manage that. Again, it's not as difficult as it is as you think it's going to be. People in manage, that they have people running their Amazon business in Europe or the US or whatever. They're not, a lot of owners aren't doing everything themselves anyway. So
Right.
it's the same way, it's the same mentality as that for Japan, really. Um, and then I guess finally, people, I think, underestimate how big the market is. When I tell people it's the third or fourth biggest market and it's got 127 million people, they're like, whoa, I had no idea it was that big. So, yeah.
Yeah, and very few people know about it, right? I mean, like Amazon is putting a lot of effort into promoting it, definitely, because you see all those YouTube videos and all that stuff. But as you said, there are not many agencies that do similar stuff that you guys do, right? So you don't have a lot of competition on that. Because, I mean, if you were late for the Amazon bandwagon on the US and in the UK market, you could still utilize this Japan opportunity.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Last question that I have for you is, how exactly does your company help sellers get started in Amazon Japan?
Yeah, so the sort of four main things that we do. Um, we we kind of help people do market research. So a common question is, will my product sell on Amazon Japan? Is Japan a good place to sell it? And we can help them uncover what the competition's like, what sales figures are like for their competition products, and help them answer that question. Will my product sell on Amazon Japan? And we kind of do these reports. They're a one-off sort of mini project to get things started.
How do
Um,
you do that? How do you check whether there's demand for a certain product?
so we look at what is selling equivalent products for what their chosen product is. Do search results, look at bestseller ranks, look at the the ranking category rankings kind of thing, and
Okay.
then look at the bestseller figures. Basically, a lot none of the tools like Jungle Scout or Helium 10 work for Japan, so it's kind of tricky to get data. But we've got like a little data model based on bestseller rank kind of thing to try and uncover
Okay.
sales potentials. That's sort of what we do for that. Then we help, I guess the next services is helping people get their listings set up properly, translating them properly, doing the Japanese copywriting, making sure the right keywords are in the listing and in the back end, and that we're ranking and showing up for the right search terms. Uh, Thirdly, helping people set up their sponsored advertising campaigns, both brand ads and search term campaigns. And then finally, helping with ongoing account management, so customer support, seller support cases, and sort of, general problem solving, keeping an eye on sales figures, all the types of things that you do as a seller on Amazon,
Great,
anywhere
great. I
else.
mean, it sounds like you're a full service agency, and if somebody wants to start selling on Japan or diversify into Japan, they should definitely contact you. How do they do that?
Yeah,
Do they do
yeah.
an go in risingsuncommerce.co.uk?
Yeah, well, risingsuncommerce.com is
Oh, I'm
our
sorry.
address.
Yeah.
I think you can get there from .co.uk. We used to be .co.uk and we changed to .com. So yeah, either or will get you to the website. So yeah,
Excellent, excellent. Thanks so much, John, for taking the time to chat with us, and hopefully see you soon.
absolute pleasure. Thanks, Sergey. Cheers. Bye for now. Bye.